Today I'm talking about the concept of listening or to listen to someone. So a while back ago, I got really intrigued by the origins of language. I should have been a linguist. That's what I should have studied and just spent my life on that because it's always been very fascinating. I'm horrible at learning a language because I just don't want to put the work into it. But I love figuring out the origins of a language and how it evolved. For example, there's really intriguing patterns in different types of languages and how they form relationships with grammar. Like some languages represent the relationship between words by actually having separate words for the relationships themselves. So they'll have a word that describes the language, the relationship. That would be like Chinese, Mandarin Chinese would be like that. Some languages use sounds like expressions, like guttural, like things you emphasize in order to explain the relationship. Russian is like that. And then, some of them use like a whole string of crazy adjectives or different types of words to represent relationships like English. And then a lot of them just mix it all up together, right? And do everything, all the above. But the one that really got me interested in was writing styles. English, French, and Spanish basically use an alphabet. And so that's what most of us are used to in the English-speaking countries or in the Romantic languages, the ones that are based on the Latin alphabet. So you write down a letter, and the letter represents a phonetic sound. And when you combine those together and speak them out, it represents the sounds you make to convey a certain word. That's pretty easy for us to understand because most, like me, that I was raised that way. That's easy for me to understand. However, there's other systems like logographic systems where every character represents words or themes of words, ideas of words. And of course, Chinese, especially ancient Chinese, where they use the traditional character forms, represents this because not only can you represent a way of speaking, but you can represent entire ideas by them, which is really fascinating to me. When I was doing this, I uncovered one of the ones that really got my attention was the word listen or to listen. It's not a word in Chinese, it's a concept. But in the English language, we have this word called listen. And we think we know what it means. But we only really have one good word for the art of listening. I mean, there might be other words like comprehension, but comprehension is not the same as actually listening. So we have other words, and then we have a whole slew of adjectives we can spill together to try to convey meaning behind. But perhaps the reason why English speakers have such a hard time listening to other people is because they don't really have words to describe what it means to listen. But if you were to take the Chinese character, and I wrote a blog on this if you want to look it up. If you want to take the Chinese character to listen, which would be basically the same thing as an English speaker saying, hey, listen here, buddy. If you were to take that character, you'd find that character is comprised by 5 separate characters all put together. And each of those 5 characters has different meanings attached to them. When combined together, it conveys a really in-depth understanding of what listening is. So one of the characters represents the ear, which would indicate that this is what you should be participating with when you're listening, is the actual ear. Another one of them means king, which is to convey that when you listen with your ear, you should be listening as if that person was a king. Think about that for a minute. The other one denotes 10, which has a couple different meanings. But one of the meanings is that 10 can sometimes represent thoroughness or perfection. So 1 to 10, right? 10 being the highest. So I need to listen with my ear to someone as if they were a king, and I should listen with perfection or thoroughness. Another idea behind the 10 concept is that I should listen I should listen the same way I observe with my eyes, but I should listen as if I had 10 eyes. So basically, you should listen 10 times more than you see, which is really fascinating as well. We're not done. There's more symbols involved. There's 2 more. The next one is mouth, suggesting that listening is just as or even more important than what you do with your mouth. And then finally, the last one at the very bottom of the symbol is the heart, which means that true listening is not just a sensory act, but it's something that you should do with empathy and understanding. So that is just one character. One character in Chinese language, or the traditional art form of the Chinese language, represents all of that in one character. Now, I have to give a little apology for the English language. We've had English around for like 1,500 years, but we've only really had English the way we know it today for about 500 years or less. So the Chinese form of this character has probably been around for about 3,000 years. So maybe it'll just take some time for romantic language people to catch up so we can actually understand what it means to listen. But I mean, diving into this really taught me something. It taught me that when I listen, I should listen as if that person is saying something that a king would say, but that I should listen with perfection, and that I should listen and not keep my mouth shut, and I should listen with my heart to truly understand. With that, I will say goodbye, and let's listen more.